Gold is cold, but why is this coin warm? Brussels, Banque Royale, lower security corridor. Poirot walked in first. Hastings followed. A clerk waited near the vault. He handed Poirot a sealed envelope. No name, no markings. Poirot opened it. Inside, a Napoleon III gold coin. 1864, Poirot read. He held it in his palm. It is warm. Hastings took it. Strange, should be cold. Poirot studied the surface. Recently cleaned, no dust, fresh polish. Hastings pointed at the edge. Smudge here, like from a glove. Silk, Poirot said. Not leather. Monsieur Lefebvre approached. You asked for me? Poirot nodded. There's a sealed sub-vault here. Yes. Installed decades ago. Never used. No access. I want to see it. Lefebvre unlocked the main gate. They moved inside. Steps echoed in the corridor. Poirot stopped. Count the echoes. Hastings listened. Even, off. One section wrong, Poirot said. Symmetry broken. Lefebvre frowned. The floor was repaired years back. Poirot crouched. He touched the seam, raised slightly. Could be nothing, Hastings said. In my work, there is no nothing. They walked forward. Poirot measured each step. One segment shorter by a tile. Error? Hastings asked. Signal, Poirot replied. They reached the sub-vault door. Thick steel. Old lock. Lefebvre took out a key. Sealed since it was built. Poirot inspected the frame. Dust along the top. He tapped the base. Sound changed. Hollow behind. Impossible, Lefebvre said. Poirot slid the coin into his pocket. Everything is possible. You think the coin led us here? Hastings asked. Yes, it is an invitation. Why lead you here? Poirot didn't answer. His eyes moved from the hinges to the bolts. He took out the coin again, held it upright. Gold is cold, but this is warm. He placed it on a narrow steel shelf. What now? Hastings asked. Now, we wait. The coin stood. It trembled. They stayed still. The coin moved. It spun. No one touched it. It spun faster. Poirot raised a finger. Something inside that vault wants attention. Hastings felt the floor vibrate. Poirot stepped back. Unlock it. Lefebvre hesitated. The coin spun faster, as if pulled by something inside the vault. Sometimes, silence also writes. The clerk entered Poirot's room. He handed over a small envelope. No address, no seal. Poirot turned it over. Edges, rough. He tapped the corner. Not torn, melted. Hastings leaned in. Heat? Wax press, Poirot said. He opened it, carefully. Inside, one folded sheet. The paper was smooth, heavy weight. He held it to his nose. Orange blossom, he said. Hastings sniffed. And something metallic. Gold ink, Poirot said. He read aloud. Where accounts are kept in shadows. Hastings frowned. A bank? Not necessarily. Could be records, hidden from public view. Inspector Giraud entered without knocking. You received something? Poirot held out the sheet. Giraud read. Riddle. Pointless. Nothing is pointless, Poirot replied. Giraud folded his arms. And this scent? Perfume? Perhaps a signature. Giraud shook his head. We waste time. Poirot stood. Come, we walk. They moved into the adjoining corridor. Poirot stopped after 12 steps. Count, he said. Hastings stepped back to the start. 1, 2, 13 tiles total. Odd number, Poirot said. The opposite side has 14. Giraud frowned. What of it? Length is off. 1 tile missing space. Could hide something. Every building has flaws, Giraud said. Poirot crouched, pressed along the grout line. 1 tile shifted slightly. Hastings knelt. Loose? Yes. He lifted it carefully. Dust slid away, beneath a small object wrapped in cloth. Poirot unwrapped it. Inside, a metronome spring. Hastings blinked. From a music device? Yes, tempo control. Could also measure intervals. Why leave it here? Giraud asked. To send a message, Poirot replied. What message? That someone is counting. Hastings turned the spring in his hand. It's new, oiled recently. Poirot took it back. This means a mechanism is nearby. You think there's a hidden door? Giraud asked. Possibly. This piece was removed before, Poirot said, not by staff. Hastings glanced at the envelope in Giraud's hand. The riddle could mean a hidden archive. Exactly. All from a loose tile? Giraud muttered. Details, Inspector. Always details. Poirot placed the spring on the floor. They watched. It moved, slightly. Poirot leaned closer. A faint click came from somewhere ahead. The spring clicked again. From inside the door came a faint tick, tick. When walls breathe, someone hides. Poirot, Hastings, Lefebvre. They stood at the sealed sub-vault gate. Steel surface, dull, dust even. Poirot crouched. A gloved hand traced the bottom edge. He stopped. This is wrong. Hastings looked down. Dust? Too smooth, Poirot said. Normal dust settles unevenly. He pressed a corner of his glove against the metal. Fine grit clung to it. Hastings touched the gate. Feels like sand. Not sand, Poirot replied. Old mortar. Recent disturbance. Lefebvre shook his head. No one has entered here for decades. Poirot tapped the frame. Twice. The sound changed. Near the middle. He stood. Air passes here. Air? Hastings asked. Poirot nodded. Walls do not breathe, unless hollow. He turned to Lefebvre. Open it. Lefebvre hesitated, then took a key from his coat. The lock turned, with resistance. The gate swung inward. Inside, a narrow room. Metal shelves lined the walls. A faint smell hung in the air. Damp paper, Poirot said, and glue. Lefebvre stepped forward. Records, bond certificates, old archives. Poirot pointed to a shelf in the corner. That one. Lefebvre pulled down an ancient register. The cover cracked slightly under his hands. He placed it on a low table. Poirot opened it. Lines of serial numbers ran down each page. Hastings peered over. Government bonds? Yes, Lefebvre said. All stored in our main vault at the time. Poirot ran his finger along a column. Stopped halfway down the page. Hastings frowned. Blank spaces? Yes, Poirot said. Numbers missing. Lefebvre leaned in. Could be misfiled. Or removed deliberately, Poirot said. He turned another page. Again, gaps in the sequence. Patterns, Poirot murmured. Hastings watched him. You think this is a trail? Poirot nodded. Breadcrumbs, left, for someone who knows where to look. Giraud appeared in the doorway. Find something? Poirot didn't look up. Perhaps. Bonds missing from sequence? Tied to earlier thefts? Giraud crossed his arms. You're guessing. Not guessing, Poirot said, following logic. Lefebvre shifted uncomfortably. If bonds were removed, we would have record. Unless the removal was never logged, Poirot replied. He closed the register halfway. The gaps are precise. Too precise. To be accident. Hastings tapped the edge. What now? We check every page. He turned them, slowly. Same gaps in each section. Poirot stopped suddenly, his eyes fixed on the binding. He reached into the spine, tweezers in hand. Something thin caught between the pages. He pulled, gently. A thread emerged. Black, smooth, a black silk thread was caught in the register. When a name looks too clean, it's often dirty. Giraud placed a file on the table. Louis Durant, your suspect. Poirot opened it. The documents were flawless. No ink blot, no fold marks. Hastings leaned over. Looks like it was typed this morning. Too perfect, Poirot said. He pointed to the official seal. Embossing, clean, but tilted. Half a degree off, Poirot noted. Giro frowned. Meaning? It is forged, Poirot said, but by someone skilled. Hastings flipped through the papers. Where's his history? No school records, no property, no travel, until 2 months ago, Poirot said. Giro tapped the ID page. Passport shows entry from London. Poirot looked closer. Yes, but the watermark tells another story. He tilted the page under the lamp. Faint outlines appeared. Vienna, Zurich. Hastings squinted. Maps? Not maps. Locations of prior thefts, Poirot said. Giro crossed his arms. You're stretching. Poirot didn't look up. Number Durant is an alias, tied to the Golden Ghosts pattern. Lefebvre entered. We confirmed no Durant in our client records before this month. Exactly, Poirot said. He arrived with the plan already in motion. Giro scowled. Then find him. We will, Poirot said. They left the building together. The street was quiet. Hastings noticed movement behind them. A shadow crossed the wall. Someone's following, Hastings said. Poirot's pace stayed steady. Do not look back yet. The footsteps matched theirs. Every turn, every pause, same rhythm. Giro glanced sideways. Want me to stop him? Not yet, Poirot said. We watch. The footsteps continued. 2 more blocks. Then silence. They stopped walking. Hastings scanned the side street. Empty. Poirot turned slowly. A figure stood at the far corner, face in shadow. Hastings stepped forward. The figure didn't move. Giro shifted his weight, ready to advance. Poirot raised a hand. Wait! The figure lifted an arm. A hat came off. Light caught something at the brim. A gold button. It gleamed. Hastings couldn't see the face. Poirot watched closely. Recognition signal, he said, under his breath. The figure lowered the hat, then stepped back. The shadow merged with the wall. Gone. Giro moved fast toward the corner. Nothing. Street clear. Poirot looked at Hastings. He wanted us to know we're being watched. Why show the button? Hastings asked. To confirm identity, Poirot said. The ghost leaves his mark. The silhouette lifted a hat. A golden button gleamed. The face vanished. The silence of a rope is the loudest. Giro unlocked the side door of the warehouse. Poirot stepped in first. Hastings followed. Rows of ropes hung from wall hooks. Pulleys, a rolled tarpaulin in the corner. Hastings glanced around. Looks abandoned. Poirot shook his head. Not quite. He walked to the far wall. His finger touched a hook. No dust here. Hastings compared it to the others. This one's clean. Recent use, Poirot said. Giro frowned. Could be a dock worker. Not in a sealed building, Poirot replied. He moved toward a small desk in the corner. A ledger lay open. Half the pages torn away. Poirot studied the remaining entries. Numbers filled the columns in even spacing. Cargo weights? Hastings asked. Perhaps, Poirot said, but the rhythm is deliberate. Rhythm? Giro repeated. Like bars of music, Poirot said. Notes instead of weights. He closed the book. Poirot scanned the floor. He stepped to a wooden plank near the center. It sat lower than the others. He knelt. Loose. Giro crouched beside him. Want it lifted? Yes, Poirot said. Giro pried it up with a tool. Underneath, a small space. A single glove lay inside. Hastings picked it up. Women's glove. Poirot took it, turned it over. Clean fingertips, not worn for work. Planted? Hastings asked. Yes, Poirot said, part of a sequence. Giraud raised an eyebrow. Sequence? Poirot lowered his voice. A staged path. One clue leads to the next. He placed the glove back under the plank, then stood. He tapped the surrounding boards with his cane. A hollow sound came from one side. Hastings listened. Different. Poirot nodded. Space below. Giraud stepped onto the board. It flexed slightly. Poirot pressed his palm to the floor. He felt a faint vibration. Air moving, he said. Giraud bent down, tried the edge of the board. It lifted, with effort. Beneath, a gap large enough for a man. A narrow stair. Descending into darkness. Cold air rose through the opening. Poirot leaned over. The path continues. Another tunnel? Hastings asked. Possibly, Poirot said. Or a hidden chamber. Giraud looked down. We'll need light. Poirot gestured for him to wait. Not yet. This is an invitation, Inspector. Enter too soon, and you spoil the host's timing. Hastings glanced at the stair. You think he's waiting below? Or he was, Poirot said. He stepped back. Eyes fixed on the gap. Cold air rose from below. The secret stair didn't lie. When music stops, the signal starts. Poirot, Hastings, and Giraud entered Le Monet Opera. They walked straight to the upper level. Balcony 3. Poirot placed a hand on the brass rail. Cold, he said. Hastings frowned. You expected heat? Not heat, Poirot replied. Signs of use. He scanned the floor. A folded paper lay against the seat. He picked it up. An opera program, folded in perfect thirds. Giraud shrugged. So? Poirot opened it. Notes filled the margin. Hastings leaned in. Music? Yes, Poirot said, but not for the opera. He flattened the page. The notes sat in precise positions. Poirot removed a small grid from his pocket. He overlaid it on the program. Coordinates, he said. Coordinates to what? Giraud asked. Not yet clear, Poirot said. Hastings pointed. This symbol? Sewer junction, Poirot said. Giraud frowned. You're reading a map. From music. Yes, Poirot said simply. He circled 3 points with a pencil, all within 2 blocks of the bank. They moved toward the side stairs. From backstage came a faint sound. Hastings stopped. Hear that? A low hum, Poirot said. Generator? Hastings guessed. Possibly, or a pump, Poirot said. Giraud moved toward the sound. Poirot held him back. Not yet. We follow the paper. He studied the spacing of the notes. Intervals match distances, he said. Hastings tried to follow. So, every bar is a street? Every bar is a length of tunnel, Poirot corrected. Giraud shook his head. This is absurd. Poirot ignored him. He traced the path on the program. 6 marked points. The last, mark, alone in the bottom right corner. Poirot tapped it. The end point. Hastings leaned closer. Where is it? Poirot smiled slightly. Right beneath our feet. They left the balcony. Returned to the main floor. Poirot checked the floor plan near the exit, matched it to the program grid. This building connects directly to the older sewer line, he said. Giraud narrowed his eyes. Meaning, he could enter the system from here. Yes, Poirot said. Hastings asked. And the music? A way to pass a map without suspicion, Poirot said, to anyone who can read both. Poirot marked the last note in pencil, wrote 1 word beside it. He handed the paper to Hastings. Hastings read aloud. The final chord formed a name. D-U-R-A-N-T. Water remembers everything. Giraud unlatched the gate at the old canal lock. Poirot stepped in. Hastings followed. The air was heavy. Algae, oil, iron. They moved along the narrow edge. Poirot's eyes stayed on the ground. Boot prints, he said. Hastings leaned over. Facing the wrong way. Yes, Poirot replied. He wore decoy shoes. Why bother? Giraud asked. To mislead pursuers, Poirot said. He crouched by the wall. Faint chalk marks lined the stone. Shoulder height. Hastings touched one. Marker? Possibly a count, Poirot said, or alignment for a tool. They moved further. Giraud stopped near a metal ring in the wall. Microhooks hung from it. Poirot examined them. For a cable descent. Into the water, Hastings asked. Not water, Poirot said. Below. Giraud scanned the canal. Looks deep. Poirot took a coin from his pocket. Listen carefully, he said. He dropped it into the canal's black surface. The plink echoed faintly, then silence. Then the echo returned, delayed. Hastings frowned. Too long for open water. Exactly, Poirot said. Something hollow underneath. Giraud squatted near the edge. A chamber? Or a tunnel, Poirot said. He pointed at the chalk marks. These align with the drop point. Hastings said, could be for lowering equipment. Poirot nodded. Which means someone has used this access recently. He knelt, checked the hooks. The metal was clean where a cable had rubbed. Recent use, Poirot said. Giraud looked down again. How do we confirm? Poirot produced a thin cord, tied a small weight to the end, lowered it slowly. At 2 meters, water. At 5, something solid. He pulled it back up. The tip was wet, but it smelled faintly of oil, not canal water. Machinery, Poirot said. Hastings glanced around. So the ghost could be under us right now. Or left recently, Poirot said. Giraud stood. We'll need divers. Not yet, Poirot said. If we move too soon, we lose the advantage. He tapped the wall where the chalk marks ended. This is his entry. But he is not careless. He leaves misleading trails. Hastings asked. Then why leave this one? Because he wants me to find it, Poirot said. He pocketed the coin. The delay was too long. Below is an empty chamber, or someone breathing. Hot smoke, cold intent. Giraud pushed Etienne Lamore into the chair, hands cuffed. Poirot stood across the table, Hastings to the side. Etienne's fingers were red, the skin on the tips smooth. Burns, Poirot said. Clean edges, Hastings asked. From tools. High heat, Poirot replied. Likely soldering or cutting. Giraud leaned over. Tell us what you were working on. Etienne kept his eyes on the table. Who was with you? Giraud pressed. No answer. Metronome? Etienne muttered suddenly. Hastings looked at Poirot. Metronome. Poirot said, continue. Etienne shook his head. Schedule. No face. Giraud slammed a hand on the table. Whose schedule? Etienne closed his eyes. Poirot watched him. The smell reached him. Antiseptic. Hospital cotton, Poirot said. Hastings glanced at him. You're sure? Yes, Poirot said. He was treated recently. Burns cleaned. Giraud said, maybe after a rest. Poirot shook his head. Number before. He stepped closer to Etienne. You were not betrayed. You were meant to be here. Etienne looked up for the first time. Poirot continued. He calculated this. You being taken is part of his plan. Giraud frowned. You think the ghost gave him up on purpose? Yes, Poirot said. Etienne's eyes shifted toward the wall. Poirot saw the movement. Something here? Etienne said nothing. Hastings leaned in. You know we'll find it. Poirot straightened. Search him. Giraud nodded to an officer. They checked Etienne's pockets. Nothing. Not pockets, Poirot said. Clothing. The officer inspected the seams. Poirot moved around the chair. He stopped behind Etienne. He pulled at the edge of the sleeve. A faint, tearing sound. He reached inside the lining. His fingers touched something thin. He pulled it free. A folded strip. Coated paper. A micromap, hidden in Etienne's sleeve. When lies walk on mirrors, truth shows reversed. The embassy ballroom was crowded. Poirot, Hastings, and Lefebvre stood near the edge. Giraud moved along the wall, scanning faces. Poirot's eyes fixed on a mirror across the room. He saw a man's reflection. "Durant," Poirot said quietly. Hastings looked. "Where?" "In the glass, not in the room," Poirot replied. The man's body was hidden by other guests. Only the reflection showed his face. He turned slightly. A gold-flecked feather sat in his boutonniere. Poirot noted it without blinking. "That is no ordinary accessory," he said. Hastings asked, "Mark?" "Yes, a signal," Poirot replied. The music shifted. Guests moved into a waltz. Lefebvre approached. I heard a whisper, "Vintage bonds, same year as our missing set." Poirot nodded. "He is here to meet someone." Giraud returned. "No one matches the photo on Durant's passport." "That's because Durant does not exist," Poirot said. He stepped forward, watching the dance. He began counting under his breath. Hastings asked, "Counting steps?" "Yes," Poirot said. Every couple moved in perfect time, except one pair. Always off-beat by half a count. "Look at their rotation," Poirot said. The off-beat pair moved toward the corner, then back to the center. Each turn brought them close to another couple, exchanging brief touches. "Passing something," Poirot said. Giraud squinted. "I can't see it." "You are not meant to," Poirot replied. The off-beat pair circled again. The man wore a black mask. The woman's gown was plain, no jewelry. "Deliberate absence," Poirot said, "to avoid identification later." Hastings asked, "Which one is the contact?" "Both," Poirot said, "working as one." They stepped toward an archway. Poirot moved after them. Giraud followed. The pair disappeared behind a column. Music continued. The space behind the column, empty. "No exit there," Giraud said. "Yet they are gone," Poirot replied. Hastings scanned the floor. Something caught the light. Near the column's base, a gold coin spun slowly. On the polished floor, Poirot stepped over, picked it up. Same year. Same mint as the coin from the vault. He held it up. "The ghost was here," Giraud muttered, "and left before we could move." Poirot pocketed the coin. "By design, Inspector. Always by design." The off-beat pair vanished. Only a golden coin spun on the floor. Every second cuts someone's secret. Poirot, Hastings, and Giraud climbed the tower stairs. The metal railing was cold. Under Hastings's hand, a faint rust smell lingered. Poirot stopped halfway. "Feel that?" he asked. Hastings nodded. "Skin prickles." "Air movement?" Poirot said. They reached the gear chamber. The clock mechanism turned slowly above them. Poirot looked inside a side cavity. Something was wedged in the shadows. He pulled it out, a velvet pouch. Giraud asked, "Evidence?" "Likely," Poirot replied. He loosened the drawstring. Inside, 3 key blanks, 2 wax casts of locks, and a faint scent of soap. Hastings sniffed. "Why soap?" "To clean residue after molding the keys," Poirot said. He checked the pouch lining. In the corner, faint letters were scratched. "Encore," Poirot read aloud. Hastings frowned. "As in, again?" "Yes," Poirot said. "The ghost is telling us there will be another act." Giraud paced around the room. "Could be unrelated." "No," Poirot said flatly. "The placement is deliberate." He put the pouch on the table. Hastings tilted his head. "Listen." 2 distinct ticks echoed in the room. "One is the clock," Hastings said. "What's the other?" Poirot moved toward the wall, placed his hand on the wood. The second tick was faint, but mechanical. "Not part of the tower," Poirot said. Giraud moved closer. Hidden device? Possibly, Poirot said. He traced the sound to the floor. Far corner, the tick was steady, slower than the clock. Poirot looked at Hastings. Count the interval. Hastings counted softly. Every 3 seconds. Unusual, Poirot said. Giraud asked, What runs at that pace? Timing mechanism for a small tool, Poirot said. He knelt to examine the boards. Fresh scratches ran along one edge. Hastings asked, Lift it? Not yet, Poirot said. He listened again. The tick stopped. The silence was sharp. Poirot straightened quickly. From the stairwell below came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Even. Getting closer. The second tick stopped. Footsteps came. From below. The real lock is small. The fake one is big. Poirot stood at the center of the Banque Royale operations room. Tonight, we set the trap, he said. Hastings leaned forward. Real bonds? Decoys, Poirot said. Uncirculated, coated in trace powder. Lefebvre nodded. Good. If he touches them, we'll know. Poirot adjusted the fan controls. The vents reversed. Air now flowed into the vault, not out. No sound masking, Poirot said. We need to hear him. Giraud frowned. Won't that alert him? No, Poirot said. He will think it's negligence. He walked to the guard roster. He rewrote the rotation. Intervals based on prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7. Unpredictable shifts, Poirot said. He cannot pattern our patrols. Lefebvre placed a new ledger on the vault desk. Thin fiber threads stretched across the page edges. If one is moved, Lefebvre said, the thread will snap. Poirot nodded, and it will leave a mark. The team spread out. Lights dimmed. Midnight passed. The air in the hall stayed still. Poirot walked the corridor outside the vault. He stopped at each corner. Listening. No footsteps, no voices. He returned to the monitoring station. Giraud watched the gauges. Vent pressure, steady. Humidity, constant. Lefebvre tapped the vault feed. Nothing yet. Poirot checked his watch. Patrol shift, he said. 2 guards swapped positions. No words. The building returned to silence. Poirot examined the hallway thread traps, all intact. He glanced at Hastings. You are restless. I hate waiting, Hastings said. Waiting is the work, Poirot replied. 1 hour later, the gauge needle dipped. Airflow change, Giraud said. Direction? Poirot asked. Inward pull, Giraud replied. Poirot walked toward the vault. Every step slow, every breath measured. He stopped at the final corner before the vault door. The thread across the hall was gone. Not broken. Snapped clean. Hastings whispered. Could be. A draft. Poirot shook his head. The air moved after the snap. He stepped forward. The fibers lay curled against the wall. He touched them lightly, still warm, from friction. With the thread, the air moved. Someone had passed. An artist looks at himself. Before the performance, the alarm tripped. Smoke filled the vault hallway. No door, breached, no lock, touched. Giraud pushed through the haze. Nothing's missing. Hastings scanned the vault. No sign of tools. Poirot stepped to the far wall. Deliberate, he said. Why trigger it? Giraud asked. Practice, Poirot replied. A dress rehearsal. Lefebvre entered. We found this. He held up a metronome. The pendulum swung, faster than normal. Tempo's wrong, Hastings said. Poirot nodded. The ghost sends signals. In time. Giraud's voice sharpened. Signals to who? Not yet known, Poirot said. He crouched, touched the floor. Grit clung to his fingers. He rubbed it, placed a grain on his tongue, salty. From a canal, Poirot said. Giraud frowned. There's no canal near here. Which means he carried it in, Poirot said, to tell me something. Hastings said, could be a false lead. Poirot shook his head. Too specific. They moved into the main hall. The smoke thinned. Poirot stopped near a column, a faint smear at the base, oil mixed with fine sand. Same source, Poirot said. Giraud checked his watch. If he's moving equipment, it's already away from the bank. Yes, Poirot said. Hastings asked, so all this was to… what? Waste our time. To see how fast we react, Poirot said. Lefebvre asked, and? He now knows, Poirot replied. They entered the monitoring room. Playback showed smoke pouring from vents. No figures visible. Poirot watched the timer. From trigger to full alert. 2 minutes, 43 seconds. Giraud muttered, we're too slow for him. Poirot said, we are too predictable. He leaned on the table. This was not a failed heist, he said. It was a message. Giraud paced. So where does it point? Poirot tapped the grit in his palm. To water, he said, and away from here. Hastings nodded slowly. Canal. Warehouse. Old locks Poirot straightened. Yes, he said. The real work is elsewhere. Lefebvre asked, do we move now? Poirot looked toward the window. The night air carried a faint vibration. A siren. Growing louder. Poirot spoke quietly. The heist won't be here. Poirot's words hung in the air. The siren wailed in the distance. Sometimes the loudest sound is total silence. Rain fell on the city. Poirot, Hastings, Giraud, and Lefebvre moved along the canal road. Tires hissed on wet pavement. Neon from a shop sign glowed in puddles. The canal gates were locked. Giraud checked the chain. Secure. Poirot looked at the E. Water. Dot, then why does it move? Hastings bent down. It's rising. Without rain feeding it directly, Poirot said. They stepped onto the narrow walkway. The water shifted again. Poirot pointed. A gate below the surface has opened. Giraud muttered, someone's moving cargo, under the lock. They turned toward the sub-vault entrance. The air cooled sharply. Hastings exhaled. His breath fogged. Temperature drop, Lefebvre noted. Poirot touched the wall. The stone was damp. Not from rain, sweating from within. He looked down. Water droplets slid from a single seam in the floor. Giraud crouched. Hidden channel. Yes, Poirot said, it runs under the vault. They moved deeper into the corridor. The hum of the city faded. No footsteps, no voices. It was silent enough to hear their own heartbeats. Poirot stopped, raised a hand. A faint sound reached them. Metal, touching metal. Latch, Hastings whispered. Yes, Poirot said. He moved to the door ahead. The latch shifted again. The click, delicate, almost careful. Poirot positioned himself to the side. Giraud readied his sidearm. Lefebvre stepped back, covered the rear. The latch fell into place. Nothing moved. They waited. Poirot's eyes locked on the hinge line. Seconds passed. The silence thickened. Then, without warning, the door shifted. Not pulled open, pushed from the inside. The door didn't open. It pushed itself. Gold gives weight. Secrets drop. Poirot stepped into the chamber. Stacks of gold bars lined the front wall. Hastings frowned. Looks untouched. Poirot didn't answer. He tapped the back wall with his cane. The sound was hollow. False panel, Poirot said. Giraud checked the edges. Hidden catch here. Lefebvre pulled it. The panel slid aside. Behind it, shelves of dossier boxes, each marked with a name, year, and number. Hastings read one aloud. Debt records. Poirot nodded. Not currency, leverage. Giraud frowned. So the ghost wants control, not cash. Yes, Poirot said, these names can buy silence, or cause ruin. Poirot opened a box, typed pages, precise order. He scanned 3, closed the lid. "We swap it," Poirot said. Hastings asked, "With what?" "A mirrored set," Poirot replied, "accurate enough to fool at a glance." Lefebvre brought in the copy. Every page matched the real except one. A tracer thread. They worked in silence, real dossiers out, copies in. Giraud resealed the panel. Poirot placed the real files in a sealed case. He paused. One page felt heavier. He lifted it to his nose. Orange blossom scent, Hastings noticed. "Same as the letter from the bank." "Yes," Poirot said, "which means same sender." He read the page. Only one line typed. The rest blank. "Meet under Apollo." "Last time." Giraud asked, "Apollo? A statue? A code?" Poirot slipped the page into his pocket. "We find Apollo. We find the ghost." Lefebvre sealed the case. They left the chamber. Gold still in place. Poirot locked the door, looked at the panel. "The gold is bait," he said quietly. "The real treasure was already hidden. One line on the page, meet under Apollo. Last time. Breaths count, so do decisions." Poirot stepped into the garden. Hastings followed. Whetstone smell hung in the air. The Apollo statue stood ahead. Marble surface, cold to touch. Giraud scanned the hedges. No movement. Poirot said, "He is here." A voice answered, calm, polite, precise. "Good evening, Monsieur Poirot." Hastings tensed. The voice was close, but directionless. "You have something of mine," the ghost said. Poirot replied, "And you have something of the city's." "The ledger," the ghost said. "It rewrites power." Poirot stepped forward. "It rewrites nothing," he said. "It only changes the players." "You think I care who wins?" the ghost asked. "You care about control," Poirot said. Giraud moved left, closing distance. "No," the ghost said sharply. "Stay where you are." Hastings froze. Poirot kept his tone steady. "You want the ledger," he said. "Yes." "I offer you something else," Poirot said. "What?" "A narrative, not notes." Silence. The ghost said, "Explain." "You keep the power you already hold," Poirot said. "But without the ledger, no trail leads back to you." "That protects me," the ghost said. "It protects everyone," Poirot replied. A shadow emerged from behind the statue. Tall figure. Mask covered most of the face. Only the right side was visible. The ghost stopped 3 paces from Poirot. "You bargain well," the ghost said. "I tell truth," Poirot replied. The ghost reached into his coat. Hastings shifted his weight. Giraud's hand moved toward his sidearm. "Don't," the ghost said. He lifted the mask slightly. Only half the face showed. An eye locked on Poirot. It narrowed, then curved upward. A smile. No words, no weapon, no rush forward, just the faint sound. Gloves moving together. Under the mask. An eye smiled. No gunshot. Just a soft clap. When chaos tires, order begins to walk. The morning was still. Poirot sat at his desk. Coffee steamed beside him. Ink smell came from the fresh newspaper. Giraud entered. He placed a package on the desk. "No return address," he said. Poirot opened it. Inside, 1 dossier. He turned each page. "All forged," Poirot said. "Not the real one?" Hastings asked. "No," Poirot said. "The real is safe." Giraud frowned. "So he left with nothing?" Poirot shook his head. "He left with timing," Poirot said, "and with a map of how we think." Giraud stayed silent. Etienne entered. Clothes plain. He placed a small envelope on Poirot's desk. "My debt to you," Etienne said. Poirot returned it. "No, debt," he said. "You're free now," Giraud said. Etienne nodded. "I've accepted work." Far away. He left without looking back. In the corner, Lefebvre worked on the ledgers. Numbers adjusted. Hands shook. Poirot watched. The hands steadied. "Fixed?" Hastings asked. "Yes," Lefebvre said. "Balanced." Hastings glanced at Poirot. "You're quiet," he said. Poirot reached for the small mirror on his desk, trimmed his mustache. Symmetry returned to the lines. "You think he's gone?" Hastings asked. "No," Poirot said, "but you're satisfied." Poirot nodded once. "He wanted a duet," Poirot said. "And you?" I gave him silence. The room stayed still. A long moment. Lefebvre closed the last ledger. Giraud locked the cabinet. Poirot poured fresh coffee, glanced at the clock. Exactly on the hour. He smiled faintly. Fog lifts somewhere in the city. A coin spins. Poirot smiles. Order 1. But the game still lives.